Hi everyone. I just wanted to talk to you about local service agreements. So for those of you that have been in your volunteer roles a while, you may have been familiar with local contracts. And in March 2023, we revamped these and have renamed them local service agreements. And that was to make them a bit simpler for you and to extend the time in which they lasted from 1 year to 3 years. So the idea of a local service agreement is if you contract anyone for a service, we can put in place those details of what is expected of each party as an agreement, so that no one is going to be out of pocket, or there's no reputational risk involved. You don't have to do these for venues. A venue booking agreement is completely sufficient. But for exercise classes, or if you have respite care or a transport company, it's really important, especially if we're paying money, that we have one of these in place. It may be that you are only paying for a venue, but there's a provider coming in. In that instance, it's still really good to get a contract in place with the provider, service agreement, to get a service agreement in place with the provider, because ultimately if they didn't turn up as the expectations lay out, you would still be paying for that venue. So anywhere where there's any sort of financial risk or reputational risk, when I talk about reputational risk, even if you're not paying the provider and they don't turn up without telling us, everyone's turned up to that class and it's not running, it puts us at reputational risk. So if there's a financial risk or a reputational risk, really important to get a local service agreement in place. If you're not sure, then have a chat with your local staff contact, but hopefully it's clear. And this is the template itself. So it's much more flexible for you to complete. You'll put your group name in, and you will write what activity or service the person will be delivering. So try and put as much detail in there as possible if it's something a bit more complex like respite or a taxi service. So a taxi service, for example, you might want to put in how many people they will be driving, from what addresses, in what radius, mileage, kind of thing, as much detail as possible. If it's just an exercise class, really easy to sort of pop that in. The daytime and frequency, so it might be the third Monday at 3 p.m. At the venue and address, so where it takes place and when the agreement is starting from. And it's really important that you get this in place before any activity starts. Pop the agreed payment in here. Make sure that you have spoken with the provider about this, and as much detail as possible. So is it £50 a session, or £50 an hour, or £50 a month? Make sure you're really clear. And we've added in the will not exceed X amount per month. So for example, if you are paying respite, you may not know exactly what it's going to be because it depends how many people access the service, but make sure you have that maximum agreed so that they don't come back and say, we had 100 people come this month and you owe us £3,000. Make sure you've got the top limit there. Who should the provider send a monthly invoice to? It's likely to be your treasurer or your finance contact. Pop those details in there. And then the rest of this is just the provider agreeing certain different things, so that they will pay the tax or national insurance due. We are contracting them, not employing them, so it's their responsibility to do the things that are required of someone who is self-employed. By signing the agreement, they're agreeing to deliver the service with all the relevant qualifications and insurance needed. So for most activities, they will not be covered by our insurance for what they are instructing or offering. Of course, the venue and stuff, if it's down to us, that will be covered. But an exercise instructor, for example, if something happens to someone because of the exercises they are providing, it would be under their insurance. And they're saying they'll work in a professional and safe manner at all times. So if they do need to do particular detailed risk assessments, it's up to them. They'll ensure that anyone delivering the service is fully briefed on working with people with Parkinson's. There's more information on the website there. There's also some information about safeguarding. So if there is any concerns, our safeguarding lead is on there. We've sort of said about periodically reviewing the service, making sure that it is still the right thing for people with Parkinson's. And we will work with the provider to make sure that it is the best thing possible. Paragraph in there about data, making sure that they are in line with UK GDPR, goes without saying these days. And then just some things to cover both you and the provider in terms of cancellations, or if anyone wants to stop the service at any time. Really important that if you make any significant changes to this, a new version of the agreement should be put in place. If it's just something small, like, oh, we're going to change it to 3:30 instead of 3 o'clock, that's fine. There's space at the bottom to amend that. They are approved to use the logo, but can only do so while they are providing the service. And then finally, the agreement needs to come back to localnetworks@parkinsons.org.uk, and we will store that. And it helps us to know that all of our activities have the appropriate things in place. And then it just needs to be signed by the group, by the provider, their name, their company if there is one, and the date that they signed it. And then you can do that year 2 and year 3 if there are any changes. If nothing changes, then it's valid for the 3 years, and you would just pop the changes in there. Any questions, the team here at UK Office are able to help, so just contact localnetworks@parkinsons.org.uk. But otherwise, good luck.